Hello, this is Richard from the Tech Review, and here I have something I got off of Craigslist for an amazing $25, the Apple eMac. Looking at this Apple eMac, you have the CRT in the front, which is what the reason why they built this is because it was for the education market, because it was much cheaper than the iMac G4, because the iMac G4 had the LCD screen, and CRT were still much cheaper back then. Of course, the price of LCD was going down. It was still quite expensive. Also in the front, you have your two Apple Pro speakers, I assume they would be, and the door for your optical drive, and to put in the optional airport card, which I did actually install an airport card. It didn't have one before. Looking on the side, you have all your ports. This one has one headphone jack, one audio in, 3 USB 1.1s, 2 FireWire 400s, which one of those is being used for the EyeSight camera that I velcroed to the top. It still works, I know that, because I tested it. Also, you have your modem. I'm pretty sure it's 56K. I'd be very disappointed if it isn't. You have your 10100 Ethernet, and you have your mini VGA. Right next to the port door, or that's not technically considered a port door, that's considered just, it's recessed. That's the word I'm looking for, recessed ports. And right next to it, you have your power button, the plug where you plug in the power cord. This power cord is original, and your Kensington lock. On the back, you have your big old fan. You will never, if this fan ever breaks, I feel sorry for you. And on the other side, you have nothing. Now, the keyboard and mouse are not original to this machine. The original ones would have been a generation older than this. But they're still pretty nice keyboard and mouse, at least they're Apple. Now, let me just describe a few modifications I did to this thing before I was able to do this video. The first modification is I added in the airport card because I had one sitting around and I wanted to be able to connect this thing up wirelessly. Another modification I did do is I cloned the hard drive from my iMac G4 and I put it on here because this thing just had a corrupt version of Tiger, which I couldn't connect up to the internet. It was just clunky. That, and because there was enough information on this thing that I could have stole the people I bought it from's identity. Which is why I highly recommend you erase your hard drive before you throw away or sell your computer. I cannot stretch that far enough because I had all tax information, I had social security numbers, I had all that crap on here, which I did not open or anything like that. I just saw all the software, which makes me think that this could have been used for accounting, because it had some fairly decent accounting software on this thing. I know that this was not used in an educational environment, because the CRT does not show any signs of burn-in. It's still crisp, it's still clear. And the analog board does not show many signs of failing because the picture is still crisp and clear. Now, this thing does have the original, I'm pretty sure, let me look at the port door, 40 gigabyte Max Tor. It does have the original. I checked how much capacity this thing had, and I checked the hard drive. It is the original. This thing does have the combo drive. It's not the super drive, which is a shame, but we'll manage. But nonetheless, I did clone this hard drive from my iMac G4 onto here, so because it had much better software and it was a much better copy. This is also... Now, I must warn you, this is not technically supported because this is a 700 megahertz and Leopard's minimum requirement is 867 megahertz. But I know how it runs quite well on Leopard. As long as you have a good amount of RAM, it's not really an issue. I wouldn't recommend going any lower than this, but only thing I'm trying to do is breathe enough life into it so that it'll last somebody I know a good few more years of reliable internet computing. Now, I know what you're all probably thinking. Richard, why the hell won't you just turn this damn thing on and shut the hell up? I'll do that right now. Yeah. Okay. Booting right on up. Also, another modification while I boot this thing up, what I did to it is I adjusted some of the CRT settings because of it wasn't filling the whole screen, and there's just a few things from factory settings that just drifted. You can't really prevent aging capacitors and aging analog boards from drifting, so I modified it so that it would fill the whole screen, and I just put it to an optimal. Now I'm just going to give you a little seizure alert because some of this flickering on that screen, because you cannot control the flickering of a CRT that much. Of course, on my end, the colors look a bit more faded on this camera, and my side does not flicker like this one does. So let me just put in my little secret password. And this is just to prove to you that it does run, and it runs quite well, actually. As you can see, it has all the same apps that my iMac G4 had, because, like I said before, it's a clone. And now this thing does have a dead CMOS battery. I need to just replace it with a new half AA battery. You can get that you can probably get that at Batteries Plus. I have one that's quite close to me. Or you could probably get an Interstate Battery. The two major battery stores in the United States. If you're in any other country, I'm not sure what battery stores you are, but if you do know what battery stores you can find them at, good for you. Let me just put this on to a neighbor's Wi-Fi because it does not hook up to my Wi-Fi. I do not get it. I've tried going into compatibility mode, I tried everything, it just doesn't do it. I do realize that the original airport card is a wireless B, but and my router is a wireless G, but my router does support wireless A and B, so there's really no reason. So let me just put in their password. And by the way, I saw in my comments that I was getting a few complaints because I kept going, and I sounded like I wasn't on a script, and I know that people don't like that. I just gotta let you know, I'm not going to put all my time and effort into creating a script, because I'm not looking for that great of quality. Because creating a script, that would take me about 4 or 5 times the extra time just to film this, and I don't want to be spending all that time on filming, but I will, however, try to reduce on my ums by always coming up with something to say. Now, since this mouse doesn't like cooperating without the mouse pad, let me go get a paper towel, which always seems to work on this. Now, I'm just going to show you that this is the 700 megahertz model by going up into here, about this Mac, and as you can see, it's 10.5.8 running the 700 megahertz PowerPC G4. Let me just let this zoom. You can read that. And it has 512 megabytes of SD RAM. I'm getting in another 512 module soon of PC 133 Apple RAM, which I'll stick in to make this thing a gigabyte. This thing only came with 512, and the original RAM was thrown out for some reason. Why they didn't put both the modules in to get more RAM, God knows why. Now I'm just going to show you. This is the original hard drive by doing control. Oh, wait a minute. I don't need to do control click on this mouse. Forgot I had right click capability. We're getting info. As you can see, it says capacity, if you can't read that. The capacity is 38.63 gigabyte, and what's available is 14.48 gigabytes. Which I know that's not a lot, but the person I'm giving this to, she's elderly, and she can't really, she won't be able to use all that. Trust me. Now, let's just see how good this thing does on the internet. However, since it is a clone, it should do just as well as the iMac G4 did. There's also one other funny thing I noticed. Looking at the settings on here, the CRT is higher quality, has a higher quality display than the iMac G4, but the iMac G4 costs more and had the LCD. I think that's quite strange, because it's able to go into a higher quality mode than the iMac G4. I don't know why. But as you can see, it loads relatively quick for 700 megahertz. Let's try Google. And it's not the biggest power horse available, but it's not bad for the age of this machine. Let me just try a simple YouTube channel from my channel. Sorry about this taking a little bit longer because I'm doing this through the camera and I'm not actually looking at the CRT at this moment. My channel. My channel. Work. There we are. And I do realize I haven't done the what is that thing called? Oh yeah, the video on the updated. It's the updated video on the iMac G4 speed comparison because it had bad RAM. I hate it when I get into these moments and I forget what I'm about to say and I sound like an oaf. I'm sorry about those moments. But as you can see, the HTML5 videos do play. It's quite terrible though. If you want a better quality picture, what you have to do is, which I can show you. I set this up as an extension. You right click on the page and then you click Open YouTube Movie in MacTubes, since MacTubes does support it much better than the actual YouTube website. There are many third-party applications, if you just look for them, that can actually make these things quite useful for another couple years if you're still depending on something like this. Because you can still surprisingly use this as your main computer nowadays. It's just, you have to use older versions of software and stuff like that. But it's still quite possible. Now let's just see how good this thing plays. Now I noticed this thing was quite responsive on MacTubes. It just takes a bit for it to get loaded up and started. So let's start it. Let me just turn up the volume. And so they don't fall out. So now let's pull off this cover. The first thing we notice is one slot spot for the RAM. Yeah, this isn't being responsive at the moment. The optional airport card. Sometimes it's responsive, sometimes it's not, it's quite flaky. So, I would not recommend this as a YouTube machine or to watch videos, as for it plainly sucks. Because it's a power PC. What do you expect from something this old? Now, I know that some of you might want to see this and some of you don't, but I'm just going to show you the quality of this webcam up here. I want to show you how surprisingly, I'm pretty sure this is VGA quality, I'm not sure, but it's quite comparable to some of the, it can be quite better than some of the cheaper cameras, webcams sold today, which is quite surprising, knowing how old this thing is. As soon as I open up that shutter, iChat automatically starts to open. Automatically, I meant to say. Sometimes I make up words. On occasion. Now, it's not going to open up completely because I don't have anything set up. If I wanted to, I could put Facebook chat on this because it is iChat compatible. As long as I sign in as a Jabber account. Now, preferences, I can show you the audio and sound quality, which is right here. Quite good for something like that. Now let me just shut it off. And there we are. Now, if you didn't know, this thing does have a built-in microphone right there. Now, last but not least, I'm just going to shut this down right now and wrap this video up. Let me just shut this thing down. What I love about the Macs are, they all shut down relatively quickly, much quicker than Windows ever could. Of course, Windows 8 does shut down much quicker, but I don't like Windows 8 at all. I'm sorry, I just don't like it. Maybe if Microsoft would have implemented it a bit differently, I would have been a little bit more open to it, but since they stomped it right onto us without giving anybody a transition time, I'm quite mad at them for doing that. Yeah. But the only problem with this thing is that I put the case on wrong and it can never come back off again because I stripped one of the heads of the screw. I fixed the case as good as I could, but it's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. But this is the eMac G4. I will be posting another video about the iMac real soon, showing how well it runs on a gigabyte of RAM, because my opinion might have changed since it has non-faulty RAM now. Until the next time, see you all later.